Heavy base has dropped on a Friday morning. It's still cold. The weather just doesn't want to make up its mind. Well, it's cold where I am. I'm in the metro Atlanta area. John is not. John is, quote, the back seat of a car in Ozark, Alabama.
Yes.
It's not a police car, for those of you worried.
No.
He didn't get into any trouble yet.
No.
But he is in Ozark, Alabama, where it is cold as well?
Yes. Full disclosure. The boss and I came down yesterday because her parents celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary.
Very nice.
And so Pete and Sue Ellen, her parents, had a soiree at the local arts center in downtown Ozark, and a bunch of folks came and had cake and champagne. And so that is why I am in the back seat of a car in a driveway with a legal pad and appropriate writing utensils and Mountain Dew, because the time that is the Eastern time zone, subtract an hour. And so the 6:30 wake-up call came very, very 6:30-ish this morning. And so when it came to the main topic of the show today, at least to start, I have seen highlights and I have read things. And so I will be just as inquisitive to you and to everyone else as the average person, considering that I just know what happened and I've read what a lot of folks have thought, but I have just as many questions.
So you were eating cake, and
No.
I don't think you were drinking champagne, but there was champagne being had. There was cake being eaten and other food, and probably not the U.S. Ecuador friendly on a TV nearby.
There was no television in the arts center, and there were cheese straws and two types of cake, and I had the one type of cake that was not chocolate, and everyone else had the champagne. So yes.
Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's get started with the basics about last night. It was a 1-0 win. United States defeats Ecuador. Something I never, ever, ever understand in games like this. It's a friendly. It means nothing. You're Ecuador.
Correct. Yes.
Why are you playing like you're trying to get a point to avoid relegation?
Yeah, I know.
Like, what are you doing, Ecuador? I mean, come on. So that had an impact on the match. The United States had to figure out how to deal with it, and they did to a degree. I think the degree to which they dealt with it is interpreted differently by some people, and it's very intriguing to see this conversation play out. And we'll get into that part later. That's a different topic, but. The match itself, the United States started with a slightly different lineup than we thought they might. It was Sean Johnson who got the start and goal. He really had nothing to do. So, I mean, Sean was there. He stood. He took maybe a goal kick or two.
He got a participation trophy.
Yeah. He didn't even get a trophy. He got a ribbon. That's about it. Backline, it was 4. It was Adams on the right, as we knew would happen. It was Aaron Long and John Brooks in the middle, and it was Tim Ream on the left, which was one of the possibilities we had. Ream actually had the captain's armband last night. It was Will Trapp and Weston McKennie and Christian Pulisic as your 3 central midfielders. Jordan Morris was on the right wing, Paul Areola on the left wing, Jossie Zardes up top. Let's start just in terms of how things functioned with the Tyler Adams conundrum, because that was one of the major topics coming in. First 15 minutes, and you can go back, and people have posted the passing graphics to show where he was getting his touches, where he was making his passes from. First 15 minutes, he functioned as a very traditional right back. And I think you can look at that a couple different ways. You know, he's easing into the role. He is figuring out, when to go, when to sit. Ecuador was, you weren't really sure what they were going to show you at that point yet either. So Tyler Adams early on played that. He did get forward more and more as the match went on. I thought he was good. I didn't think he was great. I thought he was good. I thought he made some things happen. He was fine.
I saw numbers that he was at 94% passing efficiency for the evening.
Yeah, I mean, the team as a whole was at 89%. Because Ecuador dropped off very deep and sat very deep and allowed the U.S. to pass and play in front of them, and that was fine for them. So Tyler Adams as a right back / central midfielder passing at 94%, yeah, he should have because he didn't have any pressure on him.
And when he did go forward as the game went on, the fact that Aaron Long was behind him to help out defensively, that seemed to be clutch as well when Ecuador did try to get something going offensively.
Yeah, I thought Aaron Long was man of the match. Again, not really with a ton to do, but his movement, his intelligence, I thought he was really good. He's a national team center back. I really think he is. And, you know, that might upset some people who, for some reason, never rated him. He was never part of youth national teams. He got drafted and didn't stick in Portland and Seattle and went to Red Bulls. And you have to give the New York Red Bulls a ton of credit because he went there in their USL team, won a championship, won Defender of the Year in the USL, moved up, and didn't miss a beat. And now he's moved up another level with the national team, hasn't missed a beat. I think Aaron Long is one of your starters right now for the national team at center back, and you're figuring out, is it Brooks, is it somebody else with him? But I think you need to play Aaron Long. His speed, his range is really key. If you're going to play this type of role, I think he's the best suited to play next to the right back cutting inside.
Yeah, and also from what I understand, and I've seen grades across the board from everybody's participation last night, and from what I saw, and this is a blanket assessment from everybody who played last night, it seemed like the grades were just everybody was okay, considering that this was the first time that Berhalter was trying to do what he was trying to do with Tyler Adams, with everybody in behind. I didn't see anyone that blew doors off last night when it came to a grading scale.
You can't. In a game where you win 1-0 and you control the match, but you don't dominate the match, yeah, I mean, that's where you're at. The other team lets you control the match, so, it is what it is. You had lots of 6s, lots of 6.5s. That's what you're looking at here. I think Adams, I think Long, and I think Will Trapp probably stood just a little bit above everybody else. Maybe McKinney grew into it before his really nasty ankle injury.
Oof.
Don't watch the video. Don't. For whatever reason, ankle injuries like that make me queasy. Probably because I did it on a regular basis when I played.
No.
My left ankle's silly putty at this point, and that was rough. And I have a question. You see the video. I maybe they didn't see it on the bench. Maybe the medical staff didn't get a chance to see it as everything was going on. But, okay, you see him go down. You see him try to get up and walk it off because he's insane. And he's probably got crazy adrenaline pumping through him. He's like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm cool. Yeah. I can walk it off. And then he's like, no, I can't walk it off. And they start to carry him off, and they carry him off to the side of the field. Why did it take so long to get the man a cart? Like, they tried to have him hop from the middle of the field around to the locker room, and he gave up because he couldn't.
That's just asinine.
What are you doing, medical staff? Medical staff, stadium staff, whatever. You can't get a cart to him because you've already restarted at this point because you weren't on your toes to begin with. So you have to get the stretcher to him. After he tried to walk off the field, after he tried to hop around to the locker room or to the bench area, what? Like, why are you making this man suffer?
Oh, God.
I blame it on Orlando. Anyway.
Yes. The blanket Orlando blaming game. Yes, I agree.
Yes. So McKinney's going to be out for a little while. I believe MRIs are being done today, if not last night, to see if there's damage. Well, I know they're saying it's a sprain now. Last I saw was they hadn't had an MRI result yet. And a sprain can be miss a week. A sprain can be miss 6 weeks. So, I mean, a sprain is a wide-ranging descriptor for it. anytime you do that, I mean, you're going to slightly tear some ligaments, if not tear ligaments completely. And I mean, that's what a sprain is. Like that's there's nothing to go about. That's just sprain is a nice way to say that. It just depends on the damage, and it's a bad thing for Schalke because he's been doing well and he's a part of that team. But that was unfortunate. I thought he was growing into the game after a little bit of a rough start. So you could put him into the elite group of players last night. Everybody else was just pretty much there. And, is that good enough? It wasn't bad, but is it good enough? And the discussion's already started, and I saw this bubbling up last night, and I just sat back and wanted to see where it would go. The first 15 minutes or so, lots of raving about the U.S. and what they were doing. Then as the half went on and the chances really weren't materializing, it stayed pretty positive, though. And even towards the end, it stayed really positive. How many shots do you think resulted from everything last night? That's the thing that was very strange to me is you had 5 shots. You had 2 on target. You scored off a deflection. It was a lot of possession. Ton of possession. It ended up at 62% possession. So a lot of possession. You actually didn't have quite as much in the second half. You had 2 shots and 1 on target in the second half of a game you're trying to go out and win. These are things that have to be talked about. Because if they're going to be talked about with Atlanta United, because let's compare, shall we? Last night with the United States at halftime, United States 64% possession, 3 shots, 1 on target. Atlanta against Philadelphia, 68% possession, 5 shots, 1 hit the crossbar in the first half. Pretty similar, I mean, let's be real. You gave up a little bit more, Atlanta did, than the U.S. Ecuador, I think, was more defensive than Philadelphia, which I didn't think would be possible, but it was. In a friendly, by the way. Yes. Ecuador, what are you doing? Game finished up Sunday. Atlanta had 12 shots, 2 on target, 1 off the crossbar, 71% possession. United States last night, 5 shots, 2 on target, 62% possession. Look, there's a lot of similarities, and there's going to be a lot of similarities. We talked about it this week earlier. We talked about it on Stoppage Time. What Greg Berhalter is trying to do with the United States and what Frank de Boer is trying to do with Atlanta United are very similar philosophically. The idea is to control possession, therefore control the match. Period. The idea is to play in the other team's half. Period. Both teams are going to do those things. I think if you watch both and you compare both, one thing you did see with the U.S. that you didn't see enough of with Atlanta on a consistent basis was a ball over the top, a vertical ball. Will Trapp was one of the best players for the U.S. last night. He got the start over Bradley, and he was able to hit long passes with no pressure on him early on. I kept waiting for Ecuador to step up higher, and they never did. And Will Trapp made him pay for that. Made him pay for it by putting balls over the top, getting penetration behind the back line, but no end product. That is an issue. Now, there were a lot of questions when Jossie's Artist got the start up top. I don't think the lack of final product is all on Jossie's Artist. He wasn't getting a whole lot of things to do. You have to look at the guys that you're expecting to make this happen. In this lineup last night, it's Jordan Morris, it's Paul Arriola, it's Christian Pulisic, it's Weston McKennie. And you weren't getting enough from those guys going forward. 5 shots is not good enough. 2 shots on target is not good enough. 1 deflected goal is not good enough. Flat out. And if it's not good enough when it comes to an Atlanta United perspective, it can't be good enough for the U.S. Now, the difference is the perception. The difference is that The U.S. is coming off of, most people skipped 2018. It didn't happen. It was non-existent.
It was the Dallas year that Bobby Ewing died.
Yes. The U.S. woke up from the dream. They actually hired a coach, and they have moved forward. And the thing that I saw more than anything else in discussion about the game was they have a plan. They have a plan now. And they do. They absolutely do. They have a philosophy. Let's put it that way. Let's try to be consistent with terminology. They have a philosophy. Dominate possession. Keep recycling possession. Look for the opportunities. Have you heard that before? That's what we're going to see here in Atlanta, too. It's a work in progress with both. But because of where the U.S. is coming from after not qualifying for a World Cup, and where Atlanta United's coming from, winning MLS Cup, the perception of two matches that were actually very, very similar, the U.S. did not have a bad giveaway in their own half that led to a goal. They had a bad giveaway from Tim Ream that they were able to recover and snuff out. But you didn't give up the goal that Atlanta did against Philadelphia. Other than that, tell me how different the games were. Atlanta produced more shots. Atlanta had more possession. You had about the same number of big chances. The U.S. had 2 on target. Atlanta had 2 shots on target. By definition, they had 1 off the crossbar, which is not considered a shot on target because it didn't force a save. Pretty similar. But the perception is that Frank de Boer doesn't know what he's doing, and Greg Berhalter has brought a plan to the United States. That's something to keep in mind going forward. Please do so, and please consider this as we talk about both, because neither one is where the manager wants it to be. I mean, this is not the way that Greg Berhalter wants the U.S. to play on a regular basis because there's not enough chances being created. His Columbus teams created chances. They scored goals. Jossie Zardes scored a boatload of goals. This is really good from him at halftime, and Matt Doyle tweeted it out last night. Berhalter at halftime told Sebastian Salazar, the shape was good, but Ecuador's not moving out of that low block. Touches need to be cleaner, ball movement faster to pull them apart. You can take that, and you can apply that to Atlanta United in a lot of matches so far this season. Teams are going to sit deep. They're going to sit in a low block. Can't make mistakes with touches. Have to control the ball quickly, and you have to move the ball quickly to make that low block get split. It's honestly that simple when you're going to play a team that's going to defend this much. And you didn't have the quality in the final third for the U.S. last night. You didn't create enough chances. You created very few, to be honest. And Atlanta United has had the same types of situations. So, I mean, you could maybe, if you want to get into the long-range shooting aspect of it, maybe the Atlanta United takes longer shots, so they'll settle for those. So that's why they have more shots. The U.S. had 2 shots from outside the 18 last night out of their 5. Kind of a small sample size. It's something to keep in mind. It's something to consider as you go forward here and you look at these games and just think about the perception between the managers, think about the perception between the situations, because honestly, the way the two want to play is very similar. The philosophy is very similar. We talked about it on stoppage time, and we saw hints of it on Sunday. Could you see an Atlanta United team play with a hybrid outside back / central midfielder? Yeah. I think you could. I could see that fitting into the philosophy that Frank de Boer has. Julian Gressel could play that type of role. Maybe Franco Escobar, but I think he's a little more suited to, attacking up and down the wing. But Julian Gressel, as a right back / right midfielder, a la Tyler Adams, he doesn't cover as much ground, but in terms of what he does on the ball, yeah, 100%. You could see that. Wouldn't surprise me a bit. Could you see on the other side Leandro Gonzalez-Perez do a role kind of like that? Maybe. We haven't seen him play in the midfield. I think he's got the skill set to do it. You're going to see these things happen. That's what managers who are thinking along these lines are going to do because, again, everything comes back to dominating possession and creating more chances and creating the overloads. And that's something they've got the football in 60 right now on Univision Deportes, and it's the 60-minute condensed version of the U.S. game. And you watch it, and there's a lot of side-to-side. There's a lot of get to the final third, low block, blocking you from getting in there. The second half of the first half, the U.S. really didn't do a lot in the final third. They couldn't figure out the way to get in. These are going to be recurring issues for Atlanta United as well. So just keep those things in mind. It's neither one is a finished product, and you can't expect it to be. Greg Berhalter had a lot of communication with the players in Europe, and it was something that they talked about a lot on the broadcast, and that's amazing that you're able to do as much as you did without having them in camp. But you had them for 48 hours before the game. You had one fairly decent training session and one more walkthrough. It's a work in progress. Atlanta United hasn't had many training sessions either, to be honest. You're getting so many recovery days and walkthrough days that you're not able to implement as much either. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. As I was watching this game play out last night, more and more and more, it looked like a replay of Sunday in so many different ways. Perception will get you every time.
And that's, in looking at what folks were responding to, what they were analyzing, not necessarily what they were seeing, because it was more based on the national team, but as the analysis happened after the match was over, you start seeing folks talking about in this footprint about Atlanta United and the men's national team, and seeing the comparisons and the thought patterns running down the same tracks.
It's been really, really interesting to see the discussion from it. And it's a great discussion. It's a great thing because, hey, this is the type of stuff that people ask me all the time. Like, could you imagine having a conversation on the radio about this? Could you imagine talking about this? I would never imagine debates about possession-oriented teams and what one is doing and what the other isn't and what this one needs to do. Like, that's pretty detailed stuff, and this discussion is getting some traction, and it's a good one to have. It's a good thing for the game in our area because people are thinking about how to solve problems on the field. That's what soccer is. It's a game of problem solving. That's what you want from players, and I like that Greg Berhalter has a United States team playing in a way that many said they couldn't. He's asking them to figure things out. He's asking Tyler Adams to figure out when to go, when to stay. He's asking the wingers to figure out when to stay wide, when to run it, when to make diagonal runs inside. He's asking Will Trapp to figure out when to hit that ball over the top to open things up and when to keep possession. These things are very good for the game, and I love that Berhalter's doing it. Now, because of the situation, and because of what happened in the last cycle, and because of the way his hiring played out, in my opinion anyway, there's more pressure on him to get results than he'd probably like to have at the moment.
No doubt.
Because you are working on these things. But I thought last night was a good start. I thought it was a good first step with the full group. I thought it built on what we saw in the January camp. And I think you can feel pretty good about where the U.S. can be soon. They're not there yet, though. Some of the takes that this was really good, I have to disagree because you're not creating enough chances. And you did look a little shaky at times. If a team had wanted to put you under more pressure, and it was something Taylor Twellman talked about a lot on the broadcast, then what? If a team wants to play up higher or press you or get out of a low block occasionally or whatever they choose to do to deal with what you're doing, are your guys ready for it? Can Tyler Adams then make the adjustment to, hey, I need to play a true right back here because we're being put under pressure? These are things that you're not going to know until you get there. But I like the direction. I like where it can get to. It's not there yet. It's not a finished product by any stretch. There's a lot of chapters to be written here. But it's going to be fun to have these conversations along the way. And I think Berhalter's going to test people with And not just players. He's going to test people who follow the game, people who talk about the game, people who write about it with some very interesting ideas. And I love it. I love it. I love that we're having these types of conversations and the game is progressing beyond 4-4-2 and running straight lines and bomb it overhead and sit back and counter. I love that there are more things going on with the U.S. national team. All that's great. Got to get some results too. And they did get one last night. It was a 1-0 win. Can they do the same on Tuesday? Can they build on that and create more chances on Tuesday? And then when you get into the Gold Cup, can you do this in matches that count? We'll have to see. Let's take a break here. We'll get into your tweets on the timeline as we go this morning as well. We'll get into some more thoughts on the match last night. U.S. 1, Ecuador 0. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here. March 22nd, getting into the U.S. win over Ecuador last night, 1-0. John, what other questions did you have from seeing highlights, from reading discussion about it? What else popped out to you?
Well, I mean, obviously for me, I wanted to know what you thought about getting amped up about the Bundesliga boys. I saw your acronym there.
Yeah, I think that's the one to go with. I mean, you could go like well, the good one I really liked is when you have who was it? You get Sargent in the mix, and who was the other one they were wanting to throw in because they wanted to get to Swamp, which I thought was kind of cool.
Okay, so we know the amp, and we got Sargent. So who's the W?
I'm trying to remember who they wanted to throw into that. Anyway, the Bundesliga guys, Pulisic was okay. I mean, he wasn't great. I mean, he was okay. Weah.
And that's the
Sargent.
Tim Weah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
that's
okay.
the thing. It's like no matter what we talk about last night, it's a 65 or maybe a 75 that you can dance to. Everybody was okay. And I think that for me, in just looking at everything and reading everybody's opinions and seeing grades, was it good? Was it great? No, it was a good first step. So everybody was okay. And that's, when you're looking to do something out of the blocks that's different, okay is okay, but it's where you go from okay in the match against Chile coming up, and then anticipating and expecting a result in Gold Cup after this. But I think that okay is acceptable, but you've got to go forward from it. You can't just accept okay and be okay again.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Pulisic is going to be the figurehead of this team going forward. I think most people would agree with that. The performances he's had so far, his work with Dortmund, his huge transfer to Chelsea, and whatever that turns out to be, he's going to be the superstar in this team for quite a while. He's got to give you more. He has to give you more than what he gave you last night. And, is he rusty, as I've seen? Is he, out of rhythm right now because he's not playing a ton at Dortmund? Yeah, all those things are possible. But he has to perform and give you more, especially in that role that he's going to play in, it looks like. Now, the question has come up, as it usually does when he is okay in a role, is should he be in a different role? Should he have been out wide on the right? We've seen him out wide a lot. Jordan Morris was probably the least effective of the starters last night. I thought Areola was better on the left side. Areola, the thing about him to me, and this has been consistent in his national team appearances to a lesser degree with DC United, I think Paul Areola is such a smart player. He works extremely hard. He gets himself into good positions, but in the final third, he does not produce enough. He just does not produce enough, whether the killer final ball or the goals. He just doesn't give you enough for what his work rate gives you. That's a concern if he's going to play in this kind of role. Could you see him as a wingback? Yeah, I could easily see Paul Areola as a wingback with his work rate. If the U.S. ever decided to go to a 3-5-2, 3-4-3 type of situation, I could see Paul Areola play as a wingback, no problem. If he's going to be an attacking left winger or left forward or whatever you want to call it, he's got to produce more. Morris really didn't give you anything last night. I don't know why, and the description over at MLSsoccer.com was that he was hesitant to run at defenders, and that was definitely something I saw as well. He just, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from. He also had one really awful defensive play that nearly resulted in a big chance for Ecuador, where he just watched a guy make a run in. The game seemed a little big for him, and that surprised me after his early season performances. But could you have seen Pulisic on the right wing instead? Yeah. I don't know who would have been the number 10, though. I think you have more options at right wing. You don't really have a lot of options to play the 10 if it's not Christian Pulisic. And that's something that I think Greg Berhalter needs to think about and figure out. Could Sebastian Lletget be that 10? Maybe. Not convinced of it. Is there someone else? I don't know. I don't know who that is right now. I think right now it's Pulisic, and you have to figure out either getting Morris back into his Seattle form or going with somebody else.
And for me, I'm glad that Ream got to see last night, and then the pass that he put through space to Spring Zardes for the one goal of the match. I mean, I thought it was good to see that from Ream, because it's a point that I've made before, that the fact that he's 31 and his time is fleeting, and so I think that there's that extra sense of urgency there.
Well, the way they're going to play the back line is really ready-made for him, because he can slide out and be a left back, but he can be a left-sided center back as well, and he has to play both in this type of system. So he's the perfect player for it. He was better than Morris, but he wasn't at the same level as Long or Trapp or the players who stood out just a little bit more than the rest. He had one really bad giveaway late, but team recovered well. The transition to defense was good, and he was able to then clear. But he was all right. I don't know if he'd say he's a lock for that role going forward, but outside of Daniel Lovitz, in this camp, he's the guy who can play that role. Now, going forward, is there somebody else? Again, you're looking deeper into the pool, and that's going to be up to Greg Berhalter to decide. I can't think of anybody as well suited for it as Tim Ream right now.
And I think it was Tafka who was trying to figure out my Raider record reference from American Bandstand. Basically, what they would do is they would take two songs, and Dick Clark would ask pairs of unsuspecting teenagers that they pulled off the dance floor what they thought. And you could go anywhere from a 30 to a 100 or a 95. And as I was explaining, I said, it could have been a one-hit wonder, or it could have been something that was really awful. And then they would play a snippet of it, and then Dick would ask the two kids what they thought. And a lot of times, they didn't want to give something like a 50, which would mean that it really was awful. And maybe a Prince single would get like a 95 or 100, as it should.
Better.
Yeah. But a lot of times, if it was just kind of they would say it's a 75 that you can't dance to. And so basically you'd give it a C or a C plus and sit there and say, and you can't dance to it. So that's where the 75 and can't dance to it is coming from. It's from misspent youth watching American Bandstand.
I didn't see American Bandstand in its heyday, but I do remember it as a kid. So I got the reference. I was there. I understood it.
Yeah, you were down with that.
I was down with that. I can't remember who I saw in American Bandstand, but anyway, it was a long time ago. What else? What other questions about last night for you as the way things played out and some of the discussion around it?
Well, I mean, I wanted to get your opinion on the Bundesliga guys. I wanted to get that. And obviously, with McKinney's injury, you kind of are pulling back on that. I guess for me, the other questions that I had are really about the guys that didn't play and wanting to see. I want to see Lovitz against Chile. And I know that I'm hoping there's going to be some rotation of squad from what we've seen. I guess from my perspective, who do you think has the most to gain? And this is an extremely broad question. From that second friendly, who do you think has the biggest possible upside from game 2 in this new system, do you think? Could it be someone that we haven't seen, or someone that you think is going to be there for that second 60 minutes or so, playing the second match in a couple of days? Who do you think has the most to gain from this second friendly?
Well, let's start from players who did play last night who need to gain from that second friendly if they get the opportunity. Jordan Morris, because there's competition for that spot. He has to show more. Ream, if he plays, although he might not, because you do want to see Lovitz in that role, I think, with more of the first team. Those are the two that stood out on the negative side for me last night. We know Pulisic's going to be a key player here. Whoever comes in for McKinney is going to be a key one, and I would probably lean to Leggett in that type of role.
Yeah.
Maybe Christian Roldan. Roldan is a little more of a defensively minded player in that role. Leggett would be the more attack-minded player. If you're going to dominate possession in the way you did against Ecuador, I think Leggett makes a lot of sense. If you're going to have a little bit more of a straight-up game, Roldan and his two-way play would maybe be more beneficial there. But whoever gets that start, and those are the two that I would keep looking at. You'd probably expect Bradley to get the start in this one as opposed to Trapp. They'll probably trade off. I think Trapp improved his stock, and against a team that's not going to pressure him defensively, Will Trapp might be the better option. Against a team that is a little more of a two-way opponent, Bradley's experience, I think, and he's better defensively than Will Trapp. I think he's the better option. So there's not a clear-cut decision there. Whoever gets the start if Morris doesn't, and could that be Corey Baird? Could that be Jonathan Lewis? I think Baird is a guy who could get that start and give you what you didn't get from Jordan Morris. I'm looking at if he gets to play and he does what we've seen him do in his national team appearances and with Real Salt Lake, I think Corey Baird is a player who really fits the system and could really do well with this group on Tuesday.
Well, and for me, I want to see, once again, what Jonathan Lewis, if Lewis gets reps, I want to see what Lewis can do, frankly, because I want to see him out there so Domi Tarrant can see what he can do so he can get more time with the double blue. I mean, that's if you're looking at someone who can do something and has to continually get reps to show it and hope that it will sink in with his professional coach. Yeah, I want to see what Lewis is up to if he can get reps out there to sit there and influence his club and sit there and say, look, I can do this. It's okay. Put me out there.
Yeah, I think Lewis, as Tarrant kind of hinted at in the offseason, Lewis has to show more maturity as well. That was discussed without really any detail, and of course you're not going to get that. But were there issues off the field with Lewis? Have there been issues with Lewis? Maybe. And he's getting the call-ups because of his talent. That should help, but he has to be more consistent with his performances, and I think his performance is off the field as much as on when it comes for NYCFC. Another player who could get the start instead of Jordan Morse is one that I think we expected to see start in DeAndre Yedlin. He came on as a sub. He could play on the right wing and get that opportunity. And Yedlin, I think, will run at players more. He definitely won't be hesitant. Could that be the type of player that unlocks more? I think in this type of system, it's a lot more of finding the right chemistry with the team on the field than this guy fits in this spot and this spot only. This guy has to play because he fits here. I think a lot of it is finding the right group of 10 outfield players who fit together and can work together in these situations. And that's going to take a little bit of time for Berhalter to figure out.
Fun fact from El Mataflow on the
El
Twitter.
Mataflow?
El Mataflow. As we all sit there and stare at Swansea mid-table and Birmingham City getting a 9-point deduction and moving us up one space. Fun fact, Paredes, both Ibarras, Orejuela, and Enter Valencia were all RMs before they were converted to other positions.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like Ecuador produces a bunch of wingers just like Chile used to produce a bunch of central midfielders that could all do different things. It just happens sometimes. I don't know why. Like some countries just produce a glut of players at a certain position. I always remember that with Chile when we talked about Carlos Carmona and where he fit, and it's like there's 70 different central midfielders that can play the 6, the 8, or the 10 all at the same time because that's just how they've been trained. You need that versatility, though, and some national teams get into a spot like this one with Ecuador where it's like you have a bunch of players in one position, but you have to move them around because you're not getting the same development in other positions. I'm just surprised at Ecuador's approach. I mean, you have nothing to lose here. Why so defensive?
Yeah.
That's frustrating to me in a friendly like this.
Trying to make sure that nobody gets injured?
No, that's stupid. Don't play the game then.
I know it's difficult trying to think for others, but why do what you did if you weren't going to do anything offensively? It just, the logic escapes me as to why they did what they did in a friendly. And you basically for 80 minutes just sat deep and had the U.S. national team just kind of sit there and try to figure out what to do in and around you. And if it wasn't for a deflected cleat that turned it into a massive kick save that had top spin, that I think that the keeper could have had an opportunity to punch away, that just looped in wildly, it would have been a goalless draw, bottom line.
Yeah, fluky goal kind of against the run of play out of nowhere, and there's your winner. Mm-hmm. Let's take a break here. If you have more questions on U.S. Ecuador, anything else as we get ready for a big soccer weekend, throw them our way on Twitter at Soccer Down Here. Mike Conti will join us at 10 o'clock. We'll get his thoughts on U.S. Ecuador and everything else as we head into a busy international weekend. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here. March 22nd. It's a Free Kick Friday. It's a Flashback Friday if you want to flash back to something. It's not
American
a Flashback Friday, except for the twos. You can flash back to your favorite American Bandstand performance, favorite lip-syncing performance, because most of them were. But, there you go. If you want to go there, cool. But let's get into the Twitter timeline and see what we have. So a lot of talk about your American Bandstand reference. Tafka says, I was encouraged by the first 20 minutes and thought the movement was good when it seemed Ecuador might play soccer. Then they stopped playing soccer and we weren't able to break them down. But yes, I was equally frustrated by 90 minutes. Difference was it's a friendly. Absolutely. The other difference is that Ecuador is a quality opponent compared to a brand new U.S. men's national team. The gap is much bigger between Atlanta and Philly. That might be a stretch, Tafka. I mean, Ecuador is good, but they're not an elite opponent. And if that's where the U.S. is at this point, you could be right. I have a little bit higher expectation for the U.S. team than Ecuador. Go back to 2016, U.S. knocked them out of Copa America Centenario. It's an opponent that the U.S. should be beating on a regular basis, and they did last night. Let's not get it twisted. They did, but you would expect them to do more than they did in the performance. It is early. It is a friendly. You are still figuring things out. Just keep these things in mind when you're comparing the U.S. and Atlanta United, because the results of what they produced on the field was very, very similar. Kefsi said, I had a fun time making alliterative associational? Is that a word?
I think it's probably I'm guessing that's...
I'm going to get the correct wording there, Kefsi. Hold on. But alliterative phrases.
Assonantal phrases.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a word. Anyway, examples long and short. Areola attacks angled ball and almost. Afterwards, angst. Lewis looks lightning fast. Jossie goal. Good times.
That's alliterative.
That's what he said. Yes, we've got that. but I don't know the second word. Anyway, because that's not the important point here.
It's off. It's the noun form of the word of it's the adjective form of the noun assonance. In poetry, the repetition of the sound of a vowel or diphthong in non-rhyming stressed syllables near enough to each other for the echo to be discernible.
Well, now that you have a definition, do you want to give me a pronunciation?
Yeah, assonance. So it'd be assonantal.
Assonantal?
Assonantal. If it's assonance,
okay,
it's assonantal.
Assonantal. So alliterative assonantal phrases. There we go. I learned a new word today. Very cool. Those are a mouthful, Kefsey. I would probably trip over those in a game if I tried to do it. But anyway, the A's are okay. I think the L's would get a little weird. And if you come up with more G words and you got Jossie, so it's a different way of G than goal. So I don't know how effective that is in the whole assonantal
like
phrasing. Yeah, you'd have to go
Jossie jumps.
Jossie and J's. Jossie jumps. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, that was a train wreck. Let's see. What else do we have
ATL
here?
UTD fan number 1 on Pulisic.
Bring it.
It's going to be real interesting to see what Pulisic does when he reports to @Chelsea FC this summer. He has to pick his game up quickly, or he may be in for a long road in #EFL.
Yeah, it has to be better. Well, yeah, I was about to say EPL, unless I missed something. It has to be better. El Mataflo with a couple more. Excellent decision to start Long over Miazga. Miazga would have been burned by the Ibarra brothers multiple times on the counter. Ecuador was relatively full strength in defense, makeshift in attack, so we learned little. I agree. I think Long is a starter. I really do. I think Aaron Long is a first-choice guy with this team. Now, who's around him is the question, and maybe Miazga gets in there, but Brooks and Long, I would pencil them in right now. I don't think I'm down to the pen yet or the Sharpie, but I would pencil them in.
Okay. Katie Weaver, she says, also, I'm no Bradley hater, but thought Trapp looked more solid. There. Now you can burn more pod minutes talking about him before.
No, Trapp was good last night. I just kept waiting for pressure to be put on him, and it never really was. And in that situation, he's going to be great. Trapp, for me, the thing that he has to do to be the regular starter on a regular basis is he has to be a little bit better defensively. Flashes of it with Columbus, not consistent enough. He gets a lot of help from Artur as an 8 there, who covers a ton of ground to support him. He's not going to have that really in this setup, or Tyler Adams is going to be pinched in a whole lot more to do that. That would be my concern right now. But it's they're close. They're very close, and it's going to push both of them to be as good as they can possibly be. So that's a good thing. Competition for spots is going to be very, very good. Let's take a break here, come back, wrap up hour number 1, and we'll get Mike Conti's thoughts at the top of the hour. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Welcome back. Putting a bow on hour number 1 of SDH on Friday, March 22nd. We have an assonantal phrase for Jossie. I'll add to it. Ike Man gets us started, but I'll add to it. Jossie jubilantly jumping. How about that? There we go. There's the Jossie assonantal phrasing. Man, I'm going to have to be thinking about this now. Now that Kefsey has broken my brain this morning. It's a good time.
Hey, it's a Friday. Good to break your brain on an off week leading into a weekend.
There's a lot of stuff this weekend, though. I mean, this afternoon you have Argentina and Venezuela on BN Sports. If you don't have BN on your cable package, you can get it on our friends, Fanatis. Go check that out. I'll be watching that. I'm also be flipping over to England and the Czech Republic this afternoon at 3:45. You've got Tata Martino making his Mexico debut tonight against Chile. This weekend, you've got the Netherlands and Germany on Sunday, which is always a fun one. And then Tuesday, all kinds of stuff. You've got Argentina and Morocco. You have the U.S. and Chile. You have Mexico and Paraguay. You have Paraguay and Peru tonight, too, but it's on pay-per-view, which is weird. But, yeah, it's on pay-per-view. Whoever bought the rights to some of these friendlies and to throw that one on pay-per-view is kind of awkward. But anyway, it is. Okay. So if you want to watch Tito and Miguel, you're going to have to find a pay-per-view outlet or go to a Peruvian restaurant here in Atlanta because I'm sure Contigo Peru and some of the others.
Oh, there you go.
Any quick questions as we got about 30 seconds?
Well, El Mataflow just also says that Belio Gomez is the happy South American Mourinho and has been since 1998.
Yeah, there was one really funny segment on a really bad foul call when two guys go sliding in. There shouldn't have been a foul. Where they cut to the sideline, and I don't know if Ian Dark and Taylor Twellman really knew what to make of it because Gomez is just laughing, and Berhalter's like over there with him, like they're both kind of laughing. I think Berhalter went over there to apologize for the foul being called because it was such a bad call. But yeah, Gomez seems like a fun guy. I don't know why his team played such unfun soccer.
Picking up a check.
Take the personality of your coach. He seems like a good guy. All right, let's take a break here. Let's come back with Mike Conti, and we'll get his thoughts on the game. We'll also talk about some comments that Pity Martinez gave in an interview with TYC Sports in Argentina. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double-goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student-athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here. It's a Friday. It's 10 o'clock. That means Mike Conti joins us. What's up, Mike?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, good. I want to get your thoughts on U.S.-Ecuador last night. We started with it because when you look at the stats and you dig into the way the game played out, there were a lot of similarities between the U.S. and Ecuador and Atlanta and Philadelphia from the weekend. But the perception was very, 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 very different.
I am going to plead total ignorance, and I apologize for this. I was at an event last night, did not see the match. I did see the score line. I did see the attendance, and I know some people have been making a big deal of that, and it's creating a discussion now, I think, at least on Reddit about, if they keep giving international friendlies to Orlando and they can only draw 17,000, why can't we have one at the Benz? And then it brings up a question about the artificial surface. But I think with what the U.S. men's national team is doing, and again, I did not see it last night, I think good or bad, we need to evaluate things based on the entire 2-week period and not one match. I don't think that's fair, especially as Greg Berhalter tries to implement whatever style he's trying to implement. So again, pleading ignorance because I did not see it. I am going to try to not overreact positively or negatively to what happened last night because I think the body of work, the sample size is just too small.
Yeah, see, I think it's actually still it's very similar because you are implementing a new philosophy. And it's going to take some time. And you're asking players like Tyler Adams to play that hybrid role. You're asking Christian Pulisic to play as a 10 and have a consistent impact on the match. You're asking Jordan Morris to do things out wide that maybe are not in his comfort zone.
Yeah.
So it's something that takes time. And I think it's even more than just the 2 weeks. I think you're judging Greg Berhalter through the Gold Cup on how everything goes and getting to the final. I think you have to get to the final. That's the goal that is set now. And you're judging him at the end of that before you get into the second half of the year. Kind of a similar thing to what we've said about Frank de Boer and Atlanta United. I think what we've seen so far is too small of a period to judge. And with the schedule, with the complications, with the injuries you've had to deal with, it's really unfair to draw major conclusions as of yet, and we'll probably see more conclusions drawn in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I think is where we'll get a better sense of it.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is that he has pretty much his entire first-choice group with him right now. So it's not like the pieces aren't fitting. It's not like this isn't the U.S. men's national team in its final form. I mean, this is probably the group that he wants to bring with him to the Gold Cup, maybe with one or two small exceptions.
Yeah,
so,
quite a few.
So that's good, and that helps. That helps that they're working together right now in March. This isn't going to be a scramble at the last minute to put all the pieces together. I will go back and watch the match at some point this weekend if I get some time. We've got a busy weekend, Jason. We've got apparently I heard a commercial. We're doing a broadcast tomorrow.
We are doing a broadcast tomorrow. Yes.
Maybe after that I'll be able to check it out. I would say 17,000 in Orlando. That is a little disappointing. And I know it's Ecuador. I know that's not
ticket prices too, and that's something that I'll give the Orlando and Central Florida soccer fans an out because the ticket prices for U.S. national team friendlies right now are insane for what it is and what this team's coming off of. The prices are way too high. That's got to stop.
Yeah. I mean, you want to make it accessible. I kind of feel like after what happened 2 years ago. The FA has got to do a little bit of bridge building to U.S. soccer supporters and to overcharge for tickets to an international friendly, optically, that's not the direction they should be going in right now. If anything, they should be letting people in for half off.
You need to bring people in the door.
Right, exactly. And if you're overcharging for tickets, that doesn't get it done. Obviously, it's a school night in Orlando, too. I mean, that doesn't help. So I don't want it to sound like I'm crapping all over Orlando. It's not that at all. You could drop that match in Columbus or Commerce City or anywhere else where the men's national team has had friendlies or cup qualifiers over the last couple of years, and you would probably have a similar story on attendance.
Before fees, your cheapest ticket to get into BBVA Compass Stadium in Houston, and there are still tickets available, quite a few, $32 before your fees.
So probably up to $50 by the time it's all said and done. See, that's not good.
No,
for a friendly. I don't like that. I don't like that.
And with guys off on international duty, Katie Weaver sent us a thought this morning, and Mike, I want to get your thoughts on it. She says, thoughts regarding the TYC piece, which I haven't fully read yet, but seen tweets by Felipe, Will Parchman, and others.
Mm-hmm.
We're a fan culture in its infancy, raised thus far on pub diplomacy, quiero cantar contigo, Atlanta es familia. And while PT's statements are honest and accurate, not having a great season here yet, I understand why fans may bristle at the "they offered me the most money" sentiment. Atlanta, and by extension MLS, is unlike anything else in the pro sports landscape. Are we okay with being Kentucky basketball, where players don't offer their undying commitment to the crest because there are higher pinnacles to reach? It may take some getting used to. This is the first exposure to this kind of stuff that Atlanta is having with the sale of Miguel Almiron and having that European thought pattern when it comes to bringing players in, investing in those players, selling them off, and then reinvesting that money, Mike.
So help me out with this, John. What exactly are fans bristling at from that TYC article, which I did read? I'm a little more prepared to talk about that than USA Ecuador. What exactly are fans bristling at? Because the comments that I saw seemed reasonable. If there was one thing that stood out to me, it was that he said several times, "My goal is to get to Europe," which is reasonable. Okay, that's reasonable, and I think we would all be in denial if we thought that P.T. Martinez was coming to MLS for any reason other than being a springboard to Europe. But it does contrast quite a bit with Ezequiel Barco's comments when he came to Atlanta last year. And I remember that introductory press conference, which I think was on the same night they unveiled the King Peach kit. They did an open training up at the training ground. And Barco was asked directly, do you see this as an opportunity for you to play here a short while and then go to Europe? And his answer, whether or not you choose to believe it, his answer was an emphatic no. Through a translation, I think this was the direct quote, that his sole focus was trying to win a championship for Atlanta. So there is a contrast there between what Barco said and what PT said. But in reading that article yesterday, I didn't see any remarks from PT that seemed unreasonable to me. I think if we're looking at his situation realistically, we should not be surprised by what he said. So I'm curious to know what exactly has been the brushback from some elements of the fan base.
Yeah, and so with that, I will put that out to the floor for the remainder of the segment and the remainder of the show. Is there a bristleable, to create a word? Is there a bristleable comment from what PT said with his desires and players' desires when they come in the door? So I will put that to the floor for the remainder of the show.
One key point of clarification, though, and Katie mentioned that something that could rub people the wrong way is where PT said that they offered me the most money. That's not the way I've read it, and that's not the way that it would have went down anyway. The translated quote I'm reading, and this is from our friend Felipe Cardenas, says, "In the end, we were going to talk to the team that was willing to pay the most." That is more from the River perspective of River had set a reserve clause. I believe it was 15 million euro. They set a number that if you wanted him, you had to hit that. No European club was willing to do it. And that was talked about a lot early on in the whole transfer saga, was that no European club was willing to take that chance, and Pitti said that Atlanta was willing to take that chance on him, and that's why he was coming here. So they ended up negotiating a little bit less than the reserve clause, and they worked out the deal that suited everybody. But I didn't read it as much as, well, Atlanta came to him with the biggest offer, so that's where he went. He didn't have a choice to go to Europe. But to say in response, and this was the question translated that he answered and said he wanted to go to Europe, the question was, it makes sense to see El Pitti Martinez at Juventus, Liverpool, or even Bayern Munich. Why MLS? Why would El Pitti, that we love, that plays so well, why the U.S.? That's great for vacation, but despite being a league that's growing, it isn't Serie A or the Bundesliga. So it's a question that is very, Europe is better. He said he wants to go to Europe. I don't think there's anything wrong with the answer.
No, and I think the other thing, too, is you have to understand the frame of reference from the media in Argentina, where I think the media down there, and Jason and John, you could probably speak to this better than I, they have probably approached the story from the perspective that they don't want to see PT in MLS. Whether it's they believe MLS to be an inferior league or what. As a result, stories like this get very tricky because the press corps in Central and South America is a lot different than the press corps in the United States. There is a lot more non-subliminal agenda that you see in reports down there compared to up here in the United States. It's tricky when you translate because often translation strips away a lot of the context. This is something we're seeing about that Frank de Boer article that came out yesterday in Holland, where, you translate one word differently and it might have the same meaning, but some people see spoiled, some people see entitled, some people see something totally different, and translating gets very, very tricky. But going back to PT, I really think based on what I read, and I keep in mind I could be missing the context clues because I'm not proficient in Spanish and I'm not proficient the way it's translated. But I feel like if people are taking umbrage with anything he said, you're looking for a reason to take umbrage. I really feel that way. And look, PT is struggling right now. There's no question about it. He is struggling here, adapting to whether it's MLS or Frank de Boer system or just playing with a new team or whatever. He's struggling. There's no doubt about it. But I feel like if you're going to condemn him for some of the things that he said yesterday, you're looking for a reason to go out and bash him. And I don't think that's very fair.
Miguel Almiron wasn't condemned for saying he wanted to play in Europe.
No.
For any player who is in MLS who has the ability to go to Europe to say that they want to play in Europe, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, and Jason, isn't it true that, look, let's look at it realistically right now today, the state of MLS. MLS needs to position itself to be the springboard for South American players to go to Europe. MLS is not anything more than that right now. We would be overly optimistic to say otherwise. So if you want guys like P.T. Martinez and Ezequiel Barco and Miguel Almiron and whomever to be playing in MLS, whether it be for Atlanta or someone else, guess what? That's the sales pitch that MLS clubs are making when they go down there to scout and recruit players. You've got to look at it realistically right now. MLS that's where this league is in the pecking order right now. There's nothing wrong with that. Your commissioner has said repeatedly this is a selling league right now. There's nothing wrong with that. I still think Atlanta United's biggest accomplishment next to winning the MLS Cup final was selling Miguel Almiron to a Premier League team for the most money that club has ever paid for a transfer. That's a huge accomplishment. That's the world MLS lives in right now. This is a Miguel Almiron, Alphonso Davies world right now. It's not the other way around, and that's okay. But don't hold individual players accountable if they are told by clubs, look, we're going to try to help you get to Europe, and then they parrot that. That's not their fault.
You get to where MLS wants to be by bringing in these young, talented players and moving them on and growing the stature of the league to where then, and this is paraphrasing Darren Eales, you want to get to a point where these players who have come here and decided to play here decide, you know what, I'm going to stay here. I'm good with this. I'm good with the money I'm making. I'm good with the quality of the league. I'm going to stay. But you have to bring them in first, and you have to move them on if the time is right. You have to be part of the worldwide market because you don't want it to be one-sided. I think that's where MLS can be in a very unique spot in the worldwide market where you are bringing in young talent, but you're also buying talent, whether it is young or veteran talent. You're doing both, but you're also willing to sell when the time is right. You're just part of the market. And MLS, I think, is better positioned than any league in this hemisphere to do that. I really think that's the case. And to get there, you have to have more sales like Miguel Almiron, more sales of players who develop in your academies like Alphonso Davies and maybe Paxton Pomacall down the road since he's starting to draw some interest. And bringing in talent like an Ezequiel Barco and a Pity Martinez with the idea to sell them on. Kaku could fit into that as well. You bring Kaku here and you sell him on at a profit, you're going to get more guys who want to come here. But they're coming here for that opportunity to be sold and to make more money.
There's one other thing I want to add to this, and it's a small point, but I think it's important. We are very, very fortunate here in Atlanta. I think it is indisputable that we've got the best fan base, the best group of supporters we could possibly ask for in MLS right now. I think that is without debate. The attendance numbers back that up. What we see in the community backs that up. We are very, very blessed and fortunate here. Sometimes when a player is having problems, when they're struggling, you don't need to kick them in the ass. Sometimes you need to pat them on the back. And I'll go to an Atlanta Hawks example. One of the things that really has bothered me about Hawks fans the last couple of years is the way they have treated Kent Bazemore, who's a player who took less money to stay in Atlanta and play for the Hawks. Really think about that now. I mean, the Hawks have trouble going out and overpaying free agents and convincing them to come play here. Kent Bazemore took less money than what was offered to him by the Houston Rockets and the Los Angeles Lakers to stay here and play because he loved Atlanta. He loved their fans. Kent has struggled. Fans have retaliated in being, I think, overly cruel on social media and at games. And, sometimes it is okay to give a struggling player a pat on the back as opposed to a kick in the ass. And I think we could say the same for the way that Frank de Boer is being treated right now. Let's be the fan base that we have come to know and love over the last 2 years that provides unconditional support for our team right now. Let's not grow into this Northeast mentality where we have to demand perfection at all times, and anything less than that merits a retaliatory reaction from us as fans and observers. Pity Martinez is struggling right now. The kid's going through a lot. 25 years old without his family in the United States. I don't know, if he speaks English extremely well. He's adapting to a new club after being the biggest face in South America with River Plate. This is a huge adjustment for him personally right now. Because you have been so tied up with CONCACAF and travel, he has not been able to bring his family up here to be with him. That is really, really tough to go through. So instead of parsing some translated statements that he made to TYC yesterday, let's put our arm around him and support him. I hope to God that playing with Messi today against Venezuela, he goes out and he plays great, maybe even scores a goal or sets up Messi or something like that. He needs that right now. He needs something positive. I mean, I've seen people tweeting today, they hope that Venezuela takes it to Pity in Argentina. Come on. The best thing that can happen to Pity Martinez right now is 90 productive minutes in an international friendly where he's playing with his countrymen. And then hopefully he comes back here and he's feeling better about things and he can get his family back here and then it can take off. But we don't need to be the fan base that just, is so exacting, so demanding, where things have to be perfect all the time, and anything less than that is going to cause us to clap back at this team. I don't want to see that.
Nathan Pugh, Mike, is basically saying, no, please crap all over Orlando from your previous. But no, the way that I look at this and have from the beginning, when we were growing up, we were either the new kid at school or we knew someone who was the new kid at school. And for that new kid coming into moving into the house, moving into the subdivision, being the new kid, especially in high school, there was always that time of adjustment. You were always really shy going to class. You didn't know when to reach out at lunch and try to sit there and introduce yourself. And it would always take a lot for that new kid to sit there and say at the lunch table, "Is this seat taken?"
Mm-hmm.
And try to sit there and introduce yourself and try to figure out in class what you had in common with all those other kids, and then developing friendships from there. So I've adapted. When PT showed up and when Barco showed up, there's always that part of adjustment for the new kid in school. And for those of us who are watching and those of us who are a part of this, let him sit down at the lunch table with you. Learn about him. And then that way, I think that as this fan base lets him sit down at the lunch table with you and share a meal, break some bread, and learn more about him, you know that he's a whiz at European history and that you're going to need help there someday. So I've always taken that approach of being the new kid at school with PT.
I'm with you, John. And PT can help that a little bit, too. I mean, he's been good about being accessible to the media. There's a tremendous amount of demand on his time, especially from the Spanish-speaking media. So I think he's doing as much as he possibly can. Maybe he can do more. I don't know. But, look, it took Barco probably a full year to finally get comfortable with the way things go here in the United States and the way it works in the USA. It might take PT a little bit more time. The expectation has been set very high because of what he did at River, and that's okay. It's not going to happen overnight. I think we just need to be more patient. I think your analogy is spot on, John. I mean, he's the new kid in school right now. Let's try to be his friend. Let's try to be his friend because, quite frankly, he's someone who's probably really going to help us.
He should. And, I mean, the club has invested a lot in him. You don't bring in the South American Player of the Year on the cheap. You don't generally get that opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's a big move for the league. It does no one any good if he comes and he doesn't succeed here. And it's not even about that future sale. If that happens, that's great. He's at an age where it could happen, it might not happen. If it does, great. That's a good thing for the club. It's a good thing for him. It's a good thing for the league. If it doesn't, you move on. That's where MLS is easing into right now is you can bring in a player like this at a number that you brought him in at, which was very high. And, okay, let's say that it doesn't work. Let's say he doesn't adjust. Let's say that he's just okay. And a European offer doesn't come either, but River Plate says, you know what, we'd like to have him back. And you work out a deal, and nobody loses any money on it, and he goes back to River. That could happen too. That's where you're at. It's not always 100% pass-fail anymore because you have a worldwide market to deal with. And you're going to have opportunities across a lot of different fronts. And we've seen it so far. This club is pretty nimble in dealing with the marketplace. And they're going to do what's best for the club in the long haul. But what would be the absolute best thing for the club in the long haul is if Pity Martinez is an MVP caliber player and he performs to the level that we have seen him perform with Argentina and with River Plate, and he lights this league on fire. And that's what his expectation is.
It is pretty crazy, though, Jason, that we're having this conversation after just 7 competitions.
I know.
One of which he didn't even start.
I know.
And 10% of your league schedule.
Yeah, not even. Close, but not even 10% yet. And he played well in some of them. Look, way too early. I'll reiterate what I said again. I think it calls for a little more patience. I understand why the expectations were set as high as they were, but I don't think you're being fair. If you're really going to pick apart and parse what he said in Spanish language to a Spanish language publication yesterday, looking at the translation, really trying to pick that apart, that's not fair.
He said the same things when he came. I mean, that's the part that's frustrating about it. And credit to Joe, ATL UTD fan number 1. Like, this is pretty much the exact same thing he said ahead of the deal. It's the same thing he said when it was announced he was going to Atlanta. Very complimentary of Atlanta, very complimentary of the club and the league, very excited about the opportunity, but he wants to play in Europe, and he's always wanted to play in Europe. And he should. You want players to have that aspiration. It doesn't mean he gets there. It doesn't mean he gets there next year, 2 years, whatever. It means that's where he wants to be because those are the biggest leagues in the world. That's
and
okay.
for those saying, well, Barco said that he wasn't concerned about that. He said the right thing. He wanted to win a championship for Atlanta. Yeah, I mean, Barco did say that, but Pitti might not understand. In the U.S., we want to hear certain things out of our athletes. It's funny, like
Pitti was asked the question very differently too, and that's the bigger part of it for me is that he was asked in the context of MLS is no good. Why are you there?
Right.
And he answered the question the way he did. He said different things in different ways back in December when he came. It's okay.
But John can relate to this as someone who's worked in sports in this market for a long time. John, don't we like it on those rare opportunities where athletes do tell us the truth instead of getting the canned soundbite that they've been forced to give?
Mm-hmm.
So now Pitti tells us the truth, and now we're going to get upset because we wanted to hear a canned soundbite.
It's not even the new
I just
truth,
don't understand.
Yeah, it's silly. I mean, this is the difference, and I think this is part of that process of understanding where Atlanta United fits into the world. And Atlanta United is the biggest club in the United States. I will continue to say it. It's, you have a championship, but you're also the way you are acting, the business you are doing. You are the biggest club in the United States. You're going to bring in players that Colorado can't, that Columbus can't, flat out. Pitti Martinez would not go to Colorado, Columbus. There's maybe a couple other clubs he would consider in the United States, but he's in Atlanta. All right, that doesn't mean you're the biggest club in the continent because Monterrey is bigger right now. Tigres is probably bigger. Club America is probably bigger, but you're right there. And then you compare to the big clubs in South America where there are clubs who are bigger, have a bigger stature, maybe more talent, but the economics are completely different. A club like River just won the Copa Libertadores, but they had to sell players to bring in some money. That's the reality of the economics right now. So Atlanta United has a great opportunity to do something special in this hemisphere, but then you compare it to Europe, and it's a whole different ballgame. It is a completely different conversation. It takes time to get to that level. The way you get there is you bring in players and you move them on, and they're successful. Miguel Almiron's success will make it easier to move the next player on and bring in more money. It will also make it easier to bring the next player in, and you will continue to cycle through. You're going to have more player movement than you do in other sports.
It's not going to be like Trammell and Whitaker,
No.
Well, and bottom line, if you want Atlanta United to bring in more top-class players, you need Pitti to do well here. There will be no greater endorsement or infomercial for coming to Atlanta United than Pitti Martinez succeeding here, and, oh, by the way, being embraced by the fan base. That's a big part of it, too.
There will be definitely more good things that will come of it if, as well as Pitti Martinez doing well on the field, and if he moves on and he goes out as a hero, that's great. If he goes and says, Atlanta was great to me, the fans were great to me, I loved my time there, I highly recommend it to any player who is looking to come to the United States, Atlanta United is where you want to be. That's a big part of it as well.
That's your Rick Steves and Fodor for Atlanta United.
Miguel Almiron's given you that so far. You don't want the negative review to hit the list.
Yeah. You don't want a negative Yelp review on Atlanta United. So that's
now, especially when the reader is Lionel Messi. That would not be good.
Yes. That whole thing is very funny. I'm sure Lionel Messi asked about Major League Soccer. I'm very sure he did. Doesn't mean he's coming next year, folks. Chill out.
Yeah, it's like, yo, dog, what about this MLS thing?
Yeah, we'll see. Mike, we've kept you long enough. Thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We'll be on the air tomorrow talking for a couple hours on 98.9 The Game.
Yeah, we might even talk about some non-soccer things. It's going to be a lot of fun. Lorenowitz and Parkhurst will be with us too. Noon to 2, Carrickey and Woodstock. And I think it's going to be a beautiful afternoon. So come on up. It's going to be part of an Atlanta Soccer Expo, and Jason and I will be broadcasting live. And Jason and John, you both know there is no way you could ever keep me too long. I love talking to you guys.
It's always fun.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the time. See you tomorrow.
All right, guys. See ya.
Bye.
We're going to take a break here. We'll be back with more of your thoughts on Friday. Be right back.
Today's show is presented by Appolinsky & Associates, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience, supporters of Atlanta United, Faction, and Inter-Atlanta Youth Football Club. If you've been hurt in a wreck, contact Steve today at steve@aa-legal.com or call in 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yep, he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Look, I'm usually not a fan of the national whatever days because there's always, 5 of them each day. But National Puppy Day wins. It wins.
Yeah.
There's no better day than National Puppy Day.
Yep, I'm down with that. So if you have one, maybe take a picture of it and put it on our Twitter.
Yes. Send us your National Puppy Day pictures. It's the greatest hashtag in the history of hashtags. I know there will be some Atlanta United puppy pictures because I know some of the folks in digital like their puppies. So,
yes.
And there was also an incredible photo shoot with Atlanta United players and puppies. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go check Atlanta United's National Puppy Day contributions because I'm sure they will be coming later today.
Yeah, and make sure that we get them too. So we want to see puppies if they're in kits or just if they're hanging out and making sure that they're looking at you wondering why you're taking their photograph on a random moment on a Friday. But, yeah, National Puppy Day, that's a winner.
Yes. I have a 8.5-year-old puppy. Typical?
12-year-old puppy, yes.
Yes. Gwen is definitely a puppy.
Uh-huh. And, she's not agreeing with you at the moment. Is she actually there in your studio?
I think she is sleeping in the closet, which has become a new thing for her.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Have to keep a blanket in there. She likes her puppy time to herself sometimes.
Likes her privacy?
Yeah. Then she comes out and wants to tear everything up as much as she can.
Shocker.
Yeah. She has a thing about grabbing socks and tearing them to shreds.
Yeah, and she also has a thing about blonde guys and being repelled by them, too.
Yeah, there's some people that she just takes a look at and she's like, nope, not going, not doing it. John's on the list.
He is. I just made the list.
Yeah. Gwen has a list and John's on it. It's crazy.
We just need to give her a scarf now. A scarf and a legal pad.
So send us your National Puppy Day pictures, please, because those are always welcomed here at Soccer Down Here. We have some questions. It's kind of smorgasbord time. It's the end of the week. There's no game to preview for Atlanta United this weekend. Do watch the twos Saturday night at 7 o'clock, ESPN Plus against Charlotte. The Talking Jacks podcast just came out. I did an interview with them last night and talked a lot of Atlanta United too. Some Jack Metcalf, some soccer history in Atlanta. It was a really fun conversation with Alex and Ben. So check that out. We just retweeted it. It is now available. But get ready for that one. That should be... I think there's some interesting things that could happen on Saturday night. George Bello could play. I think Franco Escobar might play with the twos. That was mentioned when his timeline was talked about, was that maybe he sees some time with the twos as he gets back to full fitness. So it wouldn't shock me if Escobar goes 45 or maybe a little bit more on Saturday night in Charlotte. The Academy guys, George Campbell, Will Vent, both of them have looked really good. I think Vent is getting closer to a start. Some more first-team guys could get time as well with the first team off this week. So that should be a fun one. Yeah, Can. I mean, we've seen Can. We've seen Dylan Castanera. You know, we haven't seen Paul Christensen yet. Brendan Moore we've seen. So I want to see what we get tomorrow night. I think it could be a little more first-team heavy. And I'm really curious to see if Escobar makes the trip up to Charlotte. Would love to see him get some time.
Yeah, in discussing it with Poppy Miller, who will be calling the game for ESPN+, I was kind of telling her yesterday in her game prep, it's like, okay, look, here's what could happen. You could have any number of 30 guys. You could have some first-team guys coming down. You could have some academy guys and the guys that have been there already that we've seen for ATO UTD2. But the first-team look, you know, you could have some guys dropping down just to get some reps. I mean, Romario Williams, Brandon Vasquez, you know, you could see Andrew Carlton. If you see Escobar, you got Campbell at the back. Is Tyler Ruthven healthy? It's going to be George Bello. You mentioned that. So it's going to be a fun mix to see who's going to get minutes up against a Charlotte team that is bringing experience with the new guys that they signed in the offseason. Enzo Martinez, another guy to pay attention to, and how will he attack the back? So it's going to be a fun matchup with Poppy Miller on the call on the plus.
All right, let's open up the smorgasbord and we'll start with Trains asking about our thoughts on the Nashville Stadium and Inter Miami Stadium situation for the next 2 years. Mike Conti chimed in on Twitter after we were done, said that Nashville playing at Nissan's a great short-term option and worries a lot about Lockhart in Miami. I would echo that. We knew Nissan was going to be the option for the first year and a half. So the Nashville thing, I think some people are trying to make a little more of it than there is. I had always heard that the idea was to move into the new stadium midway through the 2021 season. And the change is that they're not going to move in midseason. They're going to finish their 2021 season at Nissan and then move in 2022. I don't think it's a dramatic departure. I don't think it really changes anything. Ian Ayer mentioned like wanting to get everything right as opposed to rushing it. So it all makes sense. You have that opportunity. Nissan's a great venue. It's a great venue for soccer too. I've seen games there. It's a really good place for a match. I think the lower bowl can give you around 30 to 35,000 if I'm not mistaken. And when you open that up, maybe all the way for an Atlanta match, you'll have a huge crowd, and it'll be a great spectacle for Nashville SC and for Atlanta and for MLS as a whole. So the Nashville situation's great. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, anything to worry about. The Miami one, that's my thought. It's a mess on so many different levels. It looked like everything was ready to go with the Miami Freedom Park deal and getting the golf course, and there was a vote, and everything looked good, and now you have more politics getting in the way. Then the talk started about Fort Lauderdale being the training hub and home for a USL League One team, and then you had a negotiation that had to go back and forth because you had a group that was talking about bringing USL Championship in, even though they didn't have rights to a team or anything like that. It always seemed very strange, the other group trying to get Lockhart. The problem is Lockhart itself is nowhere near ready for prime time right now. No. I saw Lockhart. It's been 20-plus years since I've been to that venue. I saw it in the January before the Fusion kicked off. I was there for USL League meetings, A-League meetings with the Ruckus, And they did a combine there because the A-League used to do a college draft as well, and there was a lot of overlap with MLS at that time because you were only 3 years into MLS. So I was there, saw it as it was getting ready for that, and it felt at that time a lot like Columbus Crew Stadium feels like, Mopfre Stadium. It's an old soccer-specific style stadium. I mean, Lockhart was a high school stadium before that. It was a great venue for the Fort Lauderdale Strikers in the NASL heyday. It was a pretty good venue for the Miami Fusion, although there is a whole thing about Miami teams playing in Fort Lauderdale, and are they going to get the support that they could or should? Miami branded in Fort Lauderdale. That's a valid point. What has jumped out to me about all of this was the way this has been handled. And we talked about it back when Mel Reese first became the option for the stadium in the first place. And how the first time that came out, it seemed like Inter Miami and their group didn't do their homework.
Yep.
And they created more drama than they needed to. So with Lockhart, you have the announcement about wanting to do the training facility there, and academy, and building fields, and making some open to the public, and all of the different things coming along with it. And oh, yeah, by the way, we're going to have the stadium ready to go for USL League One. Okay, that's a pretty big undertaking for a USL League One team that's a reserve team for you, and USL League One is a little more aligned with your academy, so, the alarm bells went off in the back of my head. Then you started to see, okay, well, the temporary stadium options for 2020 are not really available. Marlins Park was never really, truly an option. Ricardo Silva is not going to have anything with FIU because his name's on the stadium, and he has wanted into MLS for a long time without paying the expansion fee. So then you're really out of options because Hard Rock Stadium's unavailable because they're going to be hosting a tennis tournament for like a month or whatever during the season. And
I don't think FAU can fit
Miami Hurricanes games. So, yeah, never heard anything specifically about Florida Atlantic. So you really didn't have any options. So, okay, you're going to do the stadium for a USL championship team. You're not saying anything about MLS, but then you do. Now, the alarm bells, because of all of this history, continue to go off in the back of my head because there's so many questions about the stadium in Miami. Who knows when, how, what, maybe even where, if there's continued fights about it. Is Lockhart just going to be where Inter Miami plays? Is that just what it is? The whole confusion around it is not helping anything. Now, if Inter Miami signs a mega player, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe all this confusion, all the drama, all the chaos doesn't matter. Could happen. It could definitely be the case, but it just has seemed to be, even with the difficulties that I think we all knew, we all understood, we all expected. I've been more optimistic about Inter Miami than anybody else on the show because I think the potential for a big Miami club in this league is huge and massive. It's really the last game-changing city out there for the league, outside of Chicago becoming relevant and the New York teams becoming big and relevant. Miami is a game-changer for the league if it's done right. Can it be done right? I don't know. I don't know if the ownership, as good of an ownership group as this is, and it's as good as you could get in Miami, I don't know if they can get it done. I don't know if they can get it done at the right level for what they want to do. I understand why they're in. I understand why the league has put up with all the craziness in Miami. I think it was the right call. But Inter Miami long-term at Lockhart, that's not what we thought it was going to be. Can still be successful. Can still be a big deal. I think it brings more complications into the mix. And if it's temporary, fine. It's a suitable temporary situation. It'll work. If it's long-term, it limits what Inter Miami can be, I think. And I don't know if there's a better option right now, to be perfectly honest. That's the problem. I don't think you can put the brakes on it at this point. I mean, the only thing I guess you could really do would be bring Sacramento in and give Miami more time. But Sacramento is ready to build their stadium, but they don't have a true stadium yet. They would be playing in a USL venue as well. They have infrastructure, so you'd be...
St. Louis?
St. Louis doesn't have anything. What do they have? They don't
Did
have
you
a
play
club
temporarily at Edward Jones?
But they don't. But John, they don't have a manager. They don't have a front office. They don't have players. They don't have a club. They don't have a structure. They don't have anything. It's not St. Louis FC. That's the big difference. So Sacramento Republic would be like Cincinnati or Minnesota moving up. St. Louis is a brand new thing entirely.
Yep.
Now you could, I guess, buy St. Louis FC, and you could do this, you could do that. That's a lot of stuff to do. Sacramento would be the one that could come in immediately and solve it. But I don't think that's in the cards. I think it is Inter Miami at a quickly refurbished Lockhart to play in 2020. And it's not going to be easy. It's really not going to be easy. You better go get Hamas. You better go get a big name, and you better go get that player in the summer to get the excitement going. Go buy Hamas in the summer window and loan him somewhere for 6 months and sell a boatload of tickets and jerseys and change the narrative, because you're getting to a point where it's just bad story after bad story after bad story, and don't have another press conference in front of a field that needs to have a weed whacker taken to it, please.
Brittany Wallman piece in the Sun Sentinel. Fort Lauderdale is all in on the Inter Miami plan.
Of course.
Great day for Fort Lauderdale with 64 acres. Deal's going to bring a new public park, possibly a community center. The mayor, quoting Mayor Dean Truntalis, it's an important moment for the community we serve. Today is the moment of truth. So they're looking at that 64 acres and flipping it into something it's going to be a cornerstone for the northern end of the city.
Well, and that all that's great. All that is outstanding, and that's a good thing for everybody involved. And if that is where the academy will be and the USL team will be, cool. Good stuff. If it's a temporary venue for Inter Miami, okay, that'll work as a temporary venue. If it's the long-term play, it's a different story.
Yeah.
That's a very different story. So let's take a break here. If you have any more questions, it's smorgasbord time. You can ask whatever. It's an AMA. Ask us whatever you want. We'll hit that up as we finish up today on a Friday ahead of a big international weekend. Hang out with us. We'll be right back.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA is a national nonprofit working to transform youth and high school sports so that every child has a positive character-building youth sports experience. PCA provides live and online workshops to train double goal coaches whose first goal is winning and whose second, more important goal is teaching life lessons through sports. PCA also has workshops for parents and high school student athletes. For more information, please visit positivecoach.org.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
I adopted Bento in 2010 from a shelter. This cat makes me make art. He's always motivating me to draw pictures of him. He just is motivating artistically. He's my best friend, but a lot of people know him as Keyboard Cat.
Keyboard Cat, YouTube star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Start yours today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Final segment SDH for the week. It's March 22nd. There's no Atlanta United match this weekend. I'm confused because I feel like I call a game every couple of days, and I don't have a game to call this weekend. But I will be on the radio tomorrow.
There you go.
10 to 2, Mike Conti and I will be at Carriage Kia in Woodstock. Michael Parkhurst, Jeff Lorenowitz will be there as well. You can get some autographs. You can get some pictures. We've got some giveaways. I believe, and I will confirm this before we're done, I believe it's a Michael Parkhurst autographed jersey is one of the giveaways. You have to be present to win. So come on up, hang out with us at Carriage Kia. We're going to talk a lot of soccer. We're going to talk a lot of Atlanta United stuff. We're not only going to talk about that. I'm curious to see what Mike's going to throw at me. Are we going to talk some Trae Young? Are we going to talk some Brave spring training? Are we going to talk Falcons draft? Probably a little bit of all of that. So I'll be doing some studying today as I watch
Sports AMA.
Lots of games. Yeah, it'll be fun. But lots of games today. At noon, you have the U.S. U23s kicking off, and I just shared a link a couple different times. It is available on YouTube. It appears. Take it with a grain of salt. It's U.S. and Egypt U23s. Looks like it's going to be up. I did see that the Argentina U20 match from Wednesday, where Ezequiel Barco came on as a substitute, that is up on YouTube. So, and it's from the same place as this: the U.S. U20s, the U.S. U23s, Argentina's U20s, a bunch of other U20 and U23 teams are playing like a showcase at the Pinatar facility in Spain. Pinatar Football is where you can go to watch this. So we'll be watching that at noon, see if Miles Robinson gets to start, get some time. Andrew Carlton is on the bench to start for the U20s. They should be at about halftime of their match this morning. And then you've got Argentina-Venezuela on BN or Fanatis. You've got Mexico-Chile tonight. You've got England-Czech Republic this afternoon as well. Lots of stuff today if you're looking for things to watch of the soccer variety, if you're not anxiously looking at your bracket in the NCAA tournament.
Mine's already blown up, so it's okay.
Mine stays blown up. I'm terrible with that stuff.
But we have questions that have been posed to the floor, sir.
Let us hit those questions.
Nathan Pugh, you're the captain of a five-a-side.
Okay.
Who in MLS do you pick?
Of a five-a-side, so I need goalkeeper, I need a defender, I need two guys who can give you defense and attack. I need a striker. I need guys who are good on the ball in tight spaces. So let's see. Nacho Piatti.
Okay.
I'm really tempted to go Michael Parkhurst as my defender.
There you go.
Like the way he reads it, comfortable on the ball, doesn't get pressured. So Parkhurst, Piatti. Let's see. Tight space. It's a small field, so some guys who are really effective would not be a great fit here.
What about PT?
In his current form, no, but in his form that we have seen, absolutely would be there. But right now, if I'm doing it, I would probably go Parkhurst, Piatti, Diego Valeri, Darwin Quintero.
Okay.
That would be my group. That'd be fun to watch. And if I'm the captain, I'm putting myself on the bench. That's the number one decision I'm making as the captain. I'm sitting the bench and letting those guys play and do whatever they want to do.
Who's your keeper?
Keeper on a little bit smaller goal. Need a guy
Sean
with
Johnson.
their feet. Nah, Sean's good with his feet, but Sean, I actually would definitely say no to Sean, and I'll tell you why. Sean went with a Soccer in the Streets team in 2006 to a street soccer tournament in Berlin that was part of the World Cup festivities. It was organized by Street Football World. Now, the goal there was not a traditional futsal goal. It was a street soccer goal. It was very short. It was maybe like 3 feet or 4 feet tall. And Sean was a big boy then. He was useless in goal on that thing because he was so tall. So Sean ended up playing on the field with that, and he was a very good field player. But in a futsal environment, I want somebody who's even more comfortable with the ball at their feet. So I would not go Sean. That's a tough one. I kind of like the idea of a smaller goalkeeper, too. I'd probably go Nick Raimondo.
Okay.
Nick Raimondo, maybe Evan Bush, but I think I'm going to go Nick Raimondo in a futsal tournament. So Raimondo, Parkhurst, Piatti, Valeri, Quintero would be my group.
Okay. All right.
Completely
I'm down with that.
Head, but that's a great question.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. What else do we have? Kefsey. So Berhalter said, good question. We'll see about Adams being limited in defensive impact by moving wide. Saw him kill at least 3 attacks from that spot. Fortunate the attacks weren't more central. Is good job getting back?
Yeah, I think Adams was smart in that he eased into the role, so he played it more as a traditional right back last night. Now, over time, as he gets more comfortable and reads the game a little bit more from that role, I think he'll be more aggressive. But he's a smart player. I mean, Bastian Schweinsteiger talking about the intelligence needed for that kind of role is 100% true. You have to get it right at all times, because if you don't, you're going to get exposed. He didn't really get exposed last night, so he did his job. I think he did well. I do want to see, and this was a question that Taylor Twellman brought up a lot on the broadcast, you do want to see against a team that is going to play you more straight up, against a team that is going to see this strategy and try to exploit it, how does it look then? You know, are they able to pick on Will Trapp as a solo 6? Are they able to pick on the right side of the U.S. defense if Tyler Adams is caught cutting inside to help Will Trapp, either in possession or defensively? That's the stuff we're going to have to wait and see on. But it's a good first step. And I think Adams can grow into the role. Is Adams, Philip Lahm? That's a tall order. I don't know if anybody's Philip Lahm. He was that good and that smart and that good on the ball. I think Tyler can grow into that kind of player. And I want to see if that's the best use of him. And this is a question I'm seeing growing more and more and more on Twitter right now is, okay, you had Tyler Adams in this role. You had Christian Pulisic as a 10. Are you playing people out of position to suit a shape and a philosophy? Would it be better if you played Pulisic on the right wing, if you played Tyler Adams in the midfield? Now, the Weston McKennie injury opens up that possibility for Adams just to go straight into the midfield. Nick Lima comes in and plays that role like he did in the earlier games. That's definitely possible. You could play Pulisic out wide. I don't think there's I think there's better players out wide than there are centrally. I think Pulisic is your best 10. I think you have other wingers. You have more strong options to play the wing if Pulisic is the 10 than the other way around. If Pulisic is on the wing, who are your options as the 10? I think it's better with Pulisic central. Somebody else on the wing. Maybe not better for Pulisic, but it's better for the team. And this is the balancing act that Greg Berhalter will be doing over the next game and as he gets ready for the Gold Cup this summer. What other questions do we have?
Shiva, is it fair to say that maybe PT is being compared to the others that have come in, Franco, Rometti, fit right in, possibly Barco, and the perception is they fit right into the team and performed well?
Different types of players, and that's the biggest thing, is your skill guys, your artists who have come in have needed a little more time. Barco, Pitti. Your grinders, your guys who come in and work hard. Rometti stepped right in, looked fine. Almiron came in and made an impact straight away. He grew into the attacking side of it, but he made an impact straight away. Franco, there were a lot of people throwing a lot of questions about Franco Escobar early last season. It took him a little while. Not as long. Well, I don't even know. It's still so early. It's hard to say with Pity. He could come back from this break and be killing it. But it took Franco some time. I remember having these conversations with Mike Bell. Mike was like, I just don't get it with Escobar. I don't see it. And I talked about the injuries that he was having. Every time it seemed like he'd get a little bit of rhythm, he'd get hurt again. Brad Gazan would clean him out again, and he'd be out for a while.
Franco would be in his parking space.
Yeah, but once Franco got a consistent run of games, he really grew into it. But it did take him some time, and that needs to be remembered. It's harder for a skill player, an artistic player, to step straight in and be comfortable than it is for a 6 or an 8, a grinder, a hard-working player. They can find ways to impact matches when they're not comfortable. Skill players, artists, creative players need that comfort to happen before you get the best out of them. And I think we've seen it with Barco. We're seeing it with Pity. Give it a little time. I think it's going to be all right.
Eichmann continues our Asinantal.
You didn't do it right. Eichmann
continues our Asinantal behavior in and around Jossie Zardes, but I'm going to edit what he said.
Uh-oh.
Okay, first off, he says, a gem from Jossie, jubilant jumping ensues. Here's how I would edit that, continuing our Asinantal behavior.
Okay.
Gem from Jossie, jubilant jumping germinates.
That's ridiculous. I like it. Asinantal is your word of the day.
Correct.
Share your favorite Asinantal phrases about Atlanta United or the U.S. men's national team with us on Soccer Down Here, on Twitter, @SoccerDownHere. We had some questions from Caleb Cook as well. They came up during a break. It was an awkward time to hit it. But we have a couple. Let's hit those for sure before we finish up.
I know that Caleb wanted to know about the Tyler Adams situation. I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, he liked it. I like the idea. I think, again, we don't get the full picture until you see a team that's going to test him defensively. But I think Adams is as complete of a player as the U.S. has, because I could see Tyler Adams play as a true right back. I could see him play as a 6 with a little support. I could see him play as an 8 for sure. I could see him play as a right winger. I could see him play as a wing back. I could see him play as a center back in a pinch. He can do a lot of different things for you, and that's really effective. He's getting better and better on the ball. He's getting so much more comfortable in traffic. I love the idea. We just haven't seen the full execution yet. Until we see a team really test him defensively and test that decision-making, I don't know if we will get a true picture of it yet.
And then he wanted to know if we see Pulisic on the wing Tuesday, or does the free center attacking mid experiment continue?
I think he stays central, again, just because I don't think there's another option as strong as you have out wide. I think this team in the Gold Cup, you could easily see a group up front with Josh Sargent as your forward, Tim Weah on the right side, Pulisic, McKennie. You'd hope he'd be back from this ankle injury. Hopefully it's not anything serious like that. And then on the left, I don't know if you can do better than Paul Arriola right now, because Arriola gives you so much. Arriola gives you so much on the wing that you need it. And if he's in a role in that, if you got Weah on the other side, you've got Sargent up top, you're not asking Arriola to score as much. You do want the killer ball in the final third. But I kind of lean that way. I think that's going to get the best of the overall group. I don't think it's the best position for Pulisic. I think he's better out wide. But with this group, with what the other options are, I think it's better with him centrally.
And you got your swamp thing right there. Sargent, Weah, Arriola, McKennie, Pulisic.
That's the only reason I said Weah needed to play, was I wanted the swamp thing.
See?
But no, I think Weah, and a lot of it depends on how much time he gets. The loan to Celtic started out great, then Brendan Rodgers left him, and now it hasn't been so great for Tim Weah. So
no,
he's with the U23s right now, as is Sargent. If Weah is ready to go, I think he could be a more dynamic option on the right side than what we've seen so far.
I think we're caught up.
All right. We retweeted Nathan's question, and that's one I'd definitely love to see people chime in on. Whether you're listening live or you're listening to this later, Nathan Pugh's question about the five-a-side team in MLS you would pick. He went with current player form, but if you want to do an all-time team, go for it too, because that's a great question. I would love to see something that we see in England and in Europe at times where you have masters teams, like alumni teams, veteran teams. And they do it at national teams. They do it with clubs where they'll play like indoor exhibitions. I'm partial to futsal. I'd love to see it as a five-a-side futsal game instead of the walls around the field like we see with our indoor. We're seeing Landon Donovan come out of retirement to play indoor, Jermaine Jones. I would love to see down the road. I think the U.S. and Mexico have done it in an indoor environment where they get their legends out there to play. I'd love to see MLS teams do it when that time comes. And you have some teams that could right now, where if you have, for example, DC and the Red Bulls have had a long rivalry. You have if they have a Sunday national team or national TV match, Saturday night at whatever arena, they set up a five-a-side, six-a-side, DC Legends versus Red Bulls Legends. How cool would that be?
Play it at the Prue.
You know, you get to that point where you could do that. You could have a Sounders Timbers Legends match. It'd be super cool.
Oh, goodness.
I am all about these types of opportunities down the road for an indoor thing. So I would love to see it. I am putting that out into the ether and hoping that someone grabs it and a promoter grabs it and goes and runs with it, because that would be very cool. And I'd love to see too, like in the summer, you get the teams coming over to do the International Champions Cup. Bring the Liverpool Legends over to play Manchester United's Legends in an indoor match in an arena. That thing would sell out.
Charlie Stilitano, are you listening?
Come on, Charlie. You've added the youth. You've added the women's competition, and good on you for really making the women's ICC a big deal. Add a Legends competition. Book those arenas. You can do it. I know you can do this. You know everybody.
You can do it.
That would be amazing. Could
you imagine indoor Cascadia at the Rose Garden?
That'd be a blast. That'd be so much fun. And I mean, you're getting teams now with enough history to be able to do it, and it'd be just so much fun to see. I'd love to see it. I mean, I've seen it in Spanish language. I don't know if an English language broadcaster's ever even picked it up when they've done these Legends games with the U.S. and Mexico. Like, make a big deal of it this summer. Do something with that. Get these guys out there to play again in a U.S. shirt to play Mexico. That would be so much fun. But I'd love to see MLS teams embrace it, too, down the road. And you have teams with enough history now to be able to do it. Love to see that. It'd be a blast. I love the five-a-side game in general, but this thing with Landon Donovan, and I saw that the San Diego Sockers are very happy with the wins that they're getting with Donovan and the team, but also the money they're making with people wanting to see Landon Donovan. It makes a lot of sense. If the indoor game, I mean, the indoor league can have a mix of young players and veterans, but to do these types of exhibitions in the indoor environment with legendary players would be a lot of fun.
Down with the idea of the Soccer Down Here Legends broadcasts.
We got to bring in a whole lot more money to book something like that at a State Farm Arena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're there yet.
We'll get there.
Yeah, it'll take some time. But that'll be a lot of fun. Hopefully it's something that can happen down the road. I think that's it for a week of Soccer Down Here. Thanks so much for everybody listening and interacting with us all week and spreading the word. We really appreciate it. It's a busy weekend. We'll be talking all about it on Monday on the show. We'll see if Pitti gets the start for Argentina today. That's the reports out of Argentina, is that he's going to replace Angel Di Maria in the starting lineup and play with Lionel Messi and Lautaro Martinez from Inter. That's a pretty cool front line if you're an Atlanta United fan. We'll see how Mexico does tonight. Tata Martino has already said the field is garbage in San Diego. It's not good enough. I mean, it is. So he's right, and it shouldn't be, and that needs to change. So we'll see how Mexico looks with Tata at the helm, and we'll see if England can get things done against the Czech Republic, and we'll see if Miles Robinson gets to start for the USU 23s here in about 50 minutes. So lots of things to catch up with you guys on Monday. Thanks for listening. Mucha plata, y'all.
Mucha plata.